In this video, we are going to write the equation of a circle being given some information. So on these first examples, which I've already done one here, you are given the center and the radius, and your job is to write the equation in standard form for your circle. So if you remember, the standard form of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, and it equals r squared. So the center we already know is your h and your k. And then we know that the radius is your r. So all we have to do is just follow this format and plug in our numbers, and then we'll have our answer. So we have x minus h is 14 squared plus y minus k is 15 squared equals r squared. So r is 4. So if we have 4 squared, really what we have is 16 at the end. So this is it. This is the equation of the circle that has a center at 14, 15 and a radius of 4. So it's pretty simple. You just have to remember what the format looks like and know where to plug in the numbers, and then it's pretty easy from there. So if we look at this next example, actually let's do this one. If we have 14 and 0, and then we have our radius is 5. So we're going to use the same equation here. Our h is 14, k is 0, and 5 is r. So if we plug it straight in how we see it, we have x minus h is 14 squared plus y minus k, which is 0, squared equals r squared. So r is 5 squared. So if we just simplify this up a little bit, x minus 14 squared is going to stay x minus 14 squared plus, well, y minus nothing. If you're subtracting nothing from y, then you just have y. So this, you don't even have to write. It's just y squared. And then we all know that 5 squared is 25. So this is the equation of a circle whose center is at 14, 0, and whose radius is 5. Now, instead of being given the center and the radius, sometimes you will be given the center and a point on the circle. So I've already worked this one out here. So actually, if you look up here, all we need in order to write the equation is the center and the radius. So down here, since we're not given the radius, that's what we need to find. So that'll be the first thing we do, is solve this equation for r and figure out what the radius is. Then we can write the equation. So your center is h and k, just like before. So you plug in your hk for the h and the k. But this time, the point on the circle, that's x and y this time. So we plug those in here for the x and the y. So you can see on this example that I've already done, you plug those in for x and y. Now this equation here can be solved for r, or r squared is really what we need. So you could just type all this in your calculator, and when I did that, I got 5. So 5 equals r squared. And we know that r squared is the number at the end of the equation. So then we can go back and write our final answer using the center point and the radius. So the center was at negative 16, negative 4. So remember, use the opposite. Positive 16, positive 4. And then r squared was 5. So since r squared is 5, that's already squared. So you don't have to square it again. It's already squared. So it equals 5. So let's look at another example. Let's look at number 16 here. So the center is our h, k. The point on the circle is x and y. So now we're going to use this equation right here, our standard form, and we're going to plug in those numbers. So we have parentheses, x minus h. H is a negative 3. Squared plus y minus k, which is 16, squared equals, oh, you know what? I didn't put in my x and my y, did I? So we need to go back and put those in. So x, we know, is going to be negative 6. So we have negative 6 minus a negative 3 inside these parentheses. Then we have our y here, which we know is going to be 16, because that's from the point on the circle. And then we know this equals r squared. Okay, so make sure you plug in your x, your y, and your h and your k. So now we can just simplify all this. So negative 6, well, minus a negative is a plus 3. So negative 6 plus 3 is negative 3 squared. And then we have 16 minus 16 is 0 squared. So negative 3 squared is 9, plus 0 squared is 0. So 9 plus 0 is 9. So r squared is 9. Now we can write our final answer, because we have the radius squared and we have our center. So now we can go back and use x and y. So x, and then we'll have our plus 3, because minus a negative 3 becomes a plus 3. And then we have y minus the 16 squared, and it equals r squared, which is 9. So the radius of this one is actually 3, so when you write the equation, it equals 9. Alright, let's do one more, and hopefully I won't mess up the numbers this time. So I'm just going to do this last one here. So remember, h, k, x, y. So we need to start with x minus h. So 5 minus 9 squared plus y minus k. So that'll be a negative 3 minus 6 squared equals r squared. So now we need to simplify this. If you have a calculator, you can just type all this in. So 5 minus 9 so negative 4 squared, and then negative 3 minus 6 is negative 9. So let's see here. We have 16 plus 81. So we have 97 as r squared. So now that we have r squared and we have our center, we can go through and write the final answer. So x minus h is 9 squared, plus the y minus the k is 6 squared equals r squared. And r squared we just found was 97. So we just plug that in there. And that is the final answer.